Hello and welcome to a new podcast called Play, Pause, Turn. We are going to be discussing all things to do with TV, films, games and literature. And we're hoping that this podcast will be a bi-weekly show which will sometimes feature a topical theme. But we're also going to be giving our thoughts on any media we've been enjoying, old or new. My name is John, and joining me today are ladies first, Amy, Alex and Bobby. And what I'm going to do at the beginning of this podcast is I'm going to say hello to each one and ask them a little icebreaker question. Because we are starting something very new, I thought it would be really useful for us to find out a bit more about each other as hosts of the Play, Pause, Turn podcast. So, Amy, could you give me a little, just a brief introduction to yourself, please?
Yes, John, I'm Amy. I'm from Milton Keynes. I like to go by the term professional idiot. I think that generally sums up my overview. I'm a big fan of films and TV and things that I don't have to think too hard about, because I find that the real life that, you know, we're stuck in sometimes is a little bit too much. So I like to hide in softer things like telly and computer games. Aside from that, professional idiot is, I think, how I'm going to go for now. Find out more about me next time.
Alex, how about you? Hello, Alex, by the way.
Hello. So I also live in Milton Keynes, which is not a surprise because we're married. So that's fair enough.
Can I just say that's Amy and Alex are married, not John and Alex. Just to confirm.
I don't live in Milton Keynes, although it's very nice.
That's fair enough. Yes, it's all right. Lots of roundabouts. So I work in technology. So I am a bit of a geek, like most people. And when I'm not working, I like driving around in our EV, because I like EVs. I want to talk about that another time. Or riding around in a Brompton bike. And then if I'm feeling particularly athletic, you might see me in some running shoes, but don't expect me to be running. So,
I think that's called athleisure, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they're proper running shoes, so I feel like that qualifies me to an extent. I used to run a long time ago, but not anymore.
But then you took an arrow to the knee.
I did. I took an arrow to the knee, and now I can't run.
Oh, okay. Well, pictures all. I don't believe you. And hello, Bobby. tell me about yourself.
Hello, John. I'm Bobby, also known by day as Roberto Revilla. I run my own business. I'm a tailor, and that basically means that I stop badly dressed people from running around in the world and giving people headaches. I absolutely, outside of all of that, I am a massive geek. I love everything to do with film and cinema and TV. And comics. I did most of my growing up literally inside a View Cinema in Croydon. I used to work in an electrical store next door to it, and then I would basically just spend every minute I could after work in that place, just growing up on film. I just love immersing myself in any other reality that is not this one, especially over the last year. And yeah, that's me. I also own a PS5, by the way. Got to get that in now.
Oh, okay. We're setting out our stance fairly early, aren't we?
Well, Alex is an Xbox fan, aren't you, Alex? So there's the divide straight away. Yes,
I know.
I am John, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I am a teacher. Whoa. And I live down in the southeast in Kent. I like being a teacher because I get time in the holidays to actually get some of this consumption of media done. So I've spent a lot of time over the most recent holiday playing video games and watching films. I'm with everyone else here. I'm a big fan of all things geekish, and I do like my sci-fi big time. If I'm going to relax, I will choose probably games first. But having said that, I have been sitting in a hammock today with a cold drink and a book, because the weather's been glorious. But I have been brought up on being a late gamer, really. I started late in gaming because I had a parent who did not like video games, so it was always a bit of a challenge for me to play games, and it was always at friends' houses. So I've played on a lot of the old retro consoles kind of indirectly, but I've never, up until now, owning PlayStation 5 as well, and at the earlier iterations, I've not really been playing much games. So I think that's probably why I play more now than I used to. Kids, if you stick your children in front of TVs and games and so on now, they'll be less likely to play them when they're older. So give them games and TV now. That's what I say.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So bring them up on a diet of screens, and everything will be fine in their futures. Stop worrying. Let's move on to our main topic today, which is we're going to be talking about a recent re-release or a recent recut of a film called Zack Snyder's Justice League. We've all been lucky enough to watch it in our different ways. And what we do is we're going to give our thoughts and feelings on the film. I know there's one person in particular who's got a lot of thoughts and feelings, who's a big DC fan. He's looking quizzically at me. I'm assuming it's you, Roberto, because I know you're a big DC fan. This is not going to be. We're not going to break it down scene by scene. I think with a 4-hour film, we'd be here all day doing that. But what we are going to do is just go through a few things that we thought stood out for the film. So let's start off with our general feelings first. Amy, what were your thoughts on the overall? Before we do any sort of spoilers, if you haven't seen the film yet, I suggest go and see it before listening to this. But before we spoil it, what were your general feelings, Amy?
I really, really enjoyed it. I'm the person whose main method of measuring how good a film is whether or not I've fallen asleep. Like many people. And for this, out of a 4-hour film, I only fell asleep ever so slightly once when it was very, very late. So for me, that's a good film.
Awesome. Alex?
Yes, so I really enjoyed it too. I think it's got plenty of faults, so I don't think it's perfect. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. At 4 hours, though, it actually breaks the sort of bladder test at the moment. So yeah, I think that's something that you should go in being aware of.
Is that an age thing, Alex?
It's something,
though, you think, rather than a length of a film thing?
No, I don't think it is an age thing. I think it's perfectly normal. But yeah, no, even without guzzling a big bottle of Coke or something in the cinema, it is the kind of thing that you need to stop and go and have a wee, a cup of tea occasionally, because it's quite long. Saying that, I think it is. I don't want to put you off. I think it's the definitive version of Justice League. So I think that needs to be said.
Bobby, how about you?
I absolutely loved it. I went in not really expecting much. I was looking forward to it. So ever since this whole release the Snyder Cut thing started, I didn't think it would happen. And then as that movement grew and grew, I started to get more and more excited. And when they announced it was happening, then I was pretty excited. And so was Mark, who sadly can't join us today. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's possibly one of my favourite superhero movies now, or at least in my top 10 for sure. And previously there was no DC movie in that top 10, unless you take the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, which is awesome, and the first Wonder Woman. And I've just been having this debate with myself. I think I actually like it more than Avengers Assemble, which is saying something. Big statement. I did see the original Joss Whedon version, we'll call it, in the cinema with a friend, and we were both massive Superman and Batman fans, and we were so excited that evening. Like, we had it all planned out. We met after work. We went to Nando's. The whole thing. Had a big old chat about what we were excited to see, and then we came out of that film, and it was like someone had killed our puppies.
Oh dear.
It was just a total car wreck. It was a pile of crap. But this is, like Alex said, what that film was meant to be, and it was brilliant. I didn't have a problem with the runtime. The only problem I've had with the runtime is I've not been able to get my wife to sit down and sit through it, which I think is actually really out of order, because she's a massive Lord of the Rings fan, and she will quite happily make me sit through a marathon of the extended editions of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, or whatever it is.
See, I like those films. As well. So I'm with her on that one, Bobby, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at that, John. So that's the only problem I've got with the length. But I personally don't have a problem with the length. I think we'll get into the reasons why it's good and all of that and why it needed to be that long. But yeah, sorry to answer the other thing that listeners will get to know as episodes of this podcast go is that I will be asked a question, and it will take a very, very long time for me to answer it.
I'm very happy for you to skirt around these questions, Bobby. It's fine. I do you know what? I was actually pleasantly surprised by this film. I would say I'm a very big Batman fan. I'm not really fussed about any of the other DC characters. So I would actually quite like to see this in black and white, because that's how I generally imagine Batman from the comics as being black and white. But I was actually I sat and watched it from start to finish in one go, and I didn't find myself clock watching or shifting uncomfortably. I chose a good chair, obviously. So I actually, I did watch the first version, the Whedon cut, and I didn't really understand what was going on with the Whedon cut, and I found this a lot more cohesive. And I thought, no, narratively, it sat really well. Everything made much more sense, especially the introduction with Superman screaming and setting off the boxes, which I had no idea what was going on with those boxes the first time round. So this made a lot more sense. Yeah. And I do think there's enough common knowledge of these characters, in the general sort of stratosphere of superheroes, that first-timers could actually enjoy this film without worrying too much about previous films in the franchise. I thought it actually held together really well. So I wasn't going in expecting to be sort of bored silly by it all, with the 4-hour length, but I didn't notice the length of the film at all. But I did make sure I emptied my bladder before watching it. That's just good common sense, you see. We are going to talk about this a bit more in depth. So if you are listening to this and haven't seen the film, here is the point where we're going to do some spoilers. So this is your spoiler warning. We are going to describe some scenes from the film, so you need to be careful, pause and come back to it. So, standout scenes, Amy. There were some. There's a lot of set pieces in this film, and I found it, going back and looking at it, quite hard to pick and choose. But there was a couple I really enjoyed. What were your favourite? What did you find that was the strongest part of this film that stood out to you?
Well, it's probably not the strongest one, but then again, I tend to spot very, very different things to other people. So the thing that really stands out to me that I can't shake off is very simply when, okay, big spoiler warning, the Flash gets involved in a car crash and zooms outside and helps somebody. But I just felt it was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I thought the way it was filmed was gorgeous, and I felt that the way that time and everything slowed down showed a real delicacy, because all the time that I've been thinking about the Flash, I've been thinking, yeah, it's really, really fast, but this just showed that actually he has so much time to play with, and he's so very, very gentle, and he has to be gentle, otherwise he could upset the fabric of the universe, and just treading on the floor can move the tarmac. And I thought the way that happened was just gorgeous, and that's something that I've taken away from the film. It's not a leading point in the story. It's not a massive point from a director's point of view. But for me, I really liked that.
I was a big fan of this scene, and I think that was one of my stand-up points as well. Alex, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, that particular character, I can't remember her name at
Iris.
The moment, but that's it. So she was meant to be quite important.
She's meant to. Well, she's his wife in the comics. Canonically.
Yeah. And I think that probably got missed out from this.
Does it matter though if people don't know who she is?
No, honestly, it didn't matter at all. I think it was a really beautiful scene, and it kind of got us into the Flash's sort of the things that he has to deal with on a daily basis.
Like what? Like exploding shoes? You mean?
Well, yeah, like that was it. It was like just trying to get a normal job while he studies is something that he struggles with, because things happen, and then he just has to jump through a window and that kind of thing. I loved the piece where he had enough time to go and get the hot dog, put it in his pocket. Oh yeah, and then use it later. I thought that was great. So yeah. No, and he was a highlight of the film, as we'll talk about later. But yeah,
I did get myself thinking when his shoes blew up and like you said, the tarmac rumpled, that he's got to be fairly strong as well as fast, hasn't he, for all these things to happen? And the way he kind of pushed his finger through the glass and it became liquid. And it got me really thinking. I always think, I don't know how you feel about this when you watch these sort of films, like the repercussions of being this person. Like, how does he cope in life? And it's really interesting how Ezra Miller, who plays the Flash, Barry Allen, how he acts and thinks very quickly. How he talks quite quickly, and he strikes me as being quite ADHD, in his own way. And I think that really fits in well with how fast his mind has to work with running and coping with all these decisions at a high speed. So I thought what could be misconstrued perhaps as being a bit of a silly character, actually, I thought he acted it very well. Bobby, what was some good moments for you in the film? What did you really enjoy?
I just wanted to say this is where the extra long runtime came in handy, because it just allows moments, characters, and concepts to breathe, which you don't often get in a massive ensemble film. I mean, look, we're commenting on a 4-hour runtime for Justice League, which involves DC's biggest heroes. The runtime for Endgame was near enough 3 hours, I think, if not slightly over. So anyway, look, for me, it just started from the very, very first scene with Superman dying and with his death cries sort of going out across the world, opening up these boxes. Because obviously that's the moment the boxes suddenly know that Earth has lost its protector. But the sound of Superman's screams was just so harrowing. It just got me. This is Superman. I massive Superman fan when I was a child. My mum, she had multiple Superman duvet sets for me. My dad had built a really nice kind of picture frame around the head end of my bed, and that part was all Superman wallpaper as well. And I used to dress up. I had the Superman costume. So when I was a child, my mum would get me ready for school, and then I would quickly run upstairs and very quickly put my Superman costume underneath my uniform. And then I would when you play Kiss Chase at school when you're like 5 years old, I'd be running around, but I'd literally split my shirt. Guys, this was the early 80s. Anyone listening that's confused, that's what we did. When you play Kiss Chase in the playground, I would literally just run around and then rip open my shirt. So my poor mum was forever sewing buttons on my school shirts. And there was one incident where my mum and dad were in the garden, and then they heard me calling them, Mummy, Daddy. And apparently, the story goes, I was on a first floor window, outside on the windowsill, standing there in full Superman costume. I was like, Mummy, Daddy, I'm going to come and save you. And I was about to jump. And my mum had to sort of stand there, sort of like, okay, yeah, but we don't need saving right at this moment. Just wait there, Superman. And I was literally, no, I'm going to do it. I can fly to you. And my dad then obviously had to go upstairs and save me. Anyway, big, massive Superman fan is the point growing up. And I also love Batman as well. So yeah, anyway, sorry, standout scenes. I also have the whole ADHD thing. Standout scenes. So the beginning one was Superman. And then there were loads of little ones in the middle, and like a lot of the stuff with Cyborg was brilliant, and it was really poignant. And then the next standout scene for me was when Superman turns up again, and he first meets face to face with Steppenwolf, and Steppenwolf is suddenly like, "Holy, okay, right, I'm pretty right now." And then Superman just goes right in there and absolutely creams him. Because that's what you want to see from the Man of Steel. We'd never had that with any previous iteration of the Man of Steel on film. He was always a slightly softer character. And this younger Henry Cavill version, he just seems to react to the world around him with just this raw power. And that is what Superman is. Awesome. Thank you, Zack Snyder. It was brilliant. On with the show.
Sorry, I've just realised I've mixed up my round robin order as well, because Alex is... He's got some good points to make as well. Alex, have you ever stood on a windowsill in a cape, ready to lose your life jumping off?
No, but I did push my brother out of a window once when we were 4. Now we should probably clarify that my brother went onto a conservatory like roof, so it's fine. But
Oh, he bounced. That's fine. That's fine. If he bounced.
that's not great. You asked, John. I had to answer.
Was it an old sort of 80s corrugated plastic
a bit
style
softer, aren't they?
conservatory roof, or was it double glazing?
No, it was pretty steady, so it's fine. But yeah, no, that is something I remember. But then I was 4 or 5 at the time, so
Is your brother still alive?
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
yeah.
that's good. I'm glad.
Is he all right? Is he gone on to have a successful career
He still
and have children?
Still holds it against me. Like, for some reason, I don't know why, but he just still holds it against me.
Didn't he try and electrocute you as revenge?
That's a whole nother podcast that we need to probably talk about. Yeah, there is stuff to discuss there. I feel like that's more of a counselling podcast, but never mind. So yeah, there's no problem.
And speaking of young men who've been in accidents and then rebuilt better than before, maybe using some sort of new alien tech, Alex, what were your good bits from the Snyder Cut? What did you enjoy the most?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. After the reconstructive surgery was finished, my brother was fine. So it's all good. No, Cyborg. So for me, he was the highlight of the movie, partly because he was so overlooked in the Whedon cut, and the challenge is there wasn't a existing material for Cyborg. You know, I needed to get up to speed quickly on the character and understand his his motivations. And what's nice about this was that there was so much time taken to us understanding his family, and the circumstances that led to the accident and to him becoming Cyborg. And because it was so tied to the main storyline as well, I think that honestly that really brought everything together. So I was really impressed by the Cyborg arc completely. I thought it was really, really good. What did you guys think?
No, I agree completely. I think it's a really, really good trend, a really encouraging trend in new media that's coming out, that we aren't sidelining or fridging other characters that in the past have been. I'm thinking of the most recent Falcon and Winter Soldier episode was very moving, and how it dealt with the way people of colour have been treated in the past by governments and military and so on. So I think you're right, Alex. For me, I like the fact that it was the central core of the film. I think it's what made the film make so much more sense. There was a proper reason for all this happening that I just couldn't see in the original film, and I really like that. What about you?
Yeah,
everyone else?
I just like seeing Cyborg's dad, because I used to love watching Eureka, and your man from Eureka turns up and he's got a robot for a son, and technically that could be canon.
I don't know what Eureka is. I just know Joe Morton as the guy from Terminator 2.
Yeah, that's who I remember him from. And with when he dies at the end and he's breathing like that, like that. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And then he, yeah,
We've ruined it for me now.
Yeah. One character I was really pleased that they cut out of this film was Henry Cavill's moustache. Because
no moustache gate.
In the Joss Whedon cut, that was so distracting, and it was crap, lazy CGI. And I was just that was one of the things I kept Googling in the days running up to the release of this film. Have they sorted his moustache? Have they sorted his moustache? And I was just so pleased. I kept pausing it on my very high resolution screen just to look at Henry Cavill's upper lip. And I'm not gay, but you know, if I was, then he's a very handsome guy.
Well, did they say
his upper lip was perfect?
Didn't Snyder say that he used no footage that Whedon used? Like every bit of footage was not any footage that Whedon used for this new film. It was all his own original stuff.
Well, that was a reshoot as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think he used any of the reshoots.
Sure.
He did work with the original.
But that was the stuff that Snyder did originally that was then mixed up with Whedon. Okay.
That's right.
No, I agree with you. I think that the whole point of view shot from a mobile phone, TikTok style, videoing Superman at the beginning, almost felt like it was pandering to some marketing guy at Warner Brothers saying we've got to have a point of view shot from a mobile phone to keep all the kids happy. I think that was a good cut. I agree. I was a big fan of the Flash moment in the dog cafe, but I also really like the Themyscira scene where I think is that Steppenwolf's first appearance when he first arrives.
Yeah.
Because he goes for that mother box first, I believe.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
That's right.
I thought the choreography of the fighting was amazing. I thought it really showed how the Amazonians were. I mean, they're up there with the Dora. What they call the ladies from Wakanda? The Dora.
Dora Milaje.
Dora Milaje. Yeah, I think that I can see analogies there. They were I watched a breakdown of this scene from the Corridor Crew who talk about VFX, and I saw some fascinating things about how when Snyder showed the Amazonians kind of fighting against Steppenwolf in that main temple, how he showed them falling to the ground and being hit against the wall. Where if you look at the Snyder cut, the Whedon cut, you see them falling but not hitting the ground. So you get that kind of that knowledge that the fight is visceral and real, and they're getting hurt by Steppenwolf, and although they're still powerful beings, there's damage to them, and I think that's where the emotion comes in. And I really, especially the scene where Queen Hippolyta she's scooting out that sort of main tunnel, and you've got a couple of other Amazonians knocking down the poles with hammers, so that they will end up trapping Steppenwolf and their own people inside that temple, which then falls to the ground. I think that whole scene was fantastic, and the kind of throwing the box tied to a string through an arrow and catching it on a horse. I mean, they really were superheroes in that scene. I really was impressed by that. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think it's really interesting because I watched the Snyder cut first. I must have watched Whedon cut a long time ago when it was out, but and then straight after I watched the Whedon cut, and then straight after I watched the Snyder cut again. Wow. And then straight after I wanted to watch because I keep wanting to compare the two, and I think what it lacks in the Whedon cut is it lacks gravity. So that whole scene, you're like, oh yeah, this is fun. Oh, okay, they're not winning. Okay, that's not a real problem. Whereas I think in the Snyder version of it, you feel that consequence so much more, and that's really clever because actually it didn't take any longer to do that. A few extra shots. It was really just about making sure that you saw the whole part of them going through. And
you talk about gravity, Alex. You talk about gravity, and I think that actually marries quite well with the other observation about Steppenwolf's look compared to the Whedon cut, because not only does he look better, and I think actually at the end of the Batman versus Superman film, we actually saw this outfit for real anyway. So I found, it was a bit of a weird jar to see Steppenwolf as some dude wearing a helmet in the Whedon cut when he'd been shown with that amazing spiky sort of dynamic armour. Was it Digital who did the VFX for this? I think it was, wasn't it? I could be wrong, but the visual effects guys did an amazing job. Not only the way he looks, but actually the way he moved and landed and fought. There was a lot more weight behind him. If you compare the two versions of Steppenwolf, so even in the VFX, they are working hard to make that film look, as you say, the emotion and gravity come through. And I think made him look more threatening. And when they're colliding and when Diana's fighting him, and again, it's almost like the viewer can put themselves into the situation and feel those clashes and bangs. I thought that was really impressive. I did actually think that Steppenwolf looked cooler than Darkseid, personally. He almost overshadowed him a little bit.
Yeah.
But then because he was...
Yeah, Darkseid just looked like some tramp that was stuck behind a portal.
Yeah, with a sort of weird dustbin on his head. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see more of Darkseid, and maybe that we'll see more of... Maybe he's had a different outfit. Go back to his wardrobe and try a different cape or something. But it was really...
Maybe I should just... He should come and see me at the workroom.
Yeah, I'd be
I'll sort him out.
Get some sponsorship.
That was meant to be Justice League 2, Bobby. So that was meant to be what it was. Is he goes to Taylor and gets himself set up, and then he comes and conquers Earth. So.
Oh, and then Darkseid becomes the first guest of the next season of my podcast. There you go. Tailoring Talk.
That's
with
it.
me, Roberto Rivella, and I'm joined this week by Darkseid. Hello. I'm not sure.
You always have to trump us, Bobby. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I think added to the just while we're on Steppenwolf, if I may.
Yeah.
I think in the first cut, it was like, who the hell is this guy, right? Like, we didn't know about him. He was just some dude that was after these MacGuffins and was just killing everyone. There was no purpose to it, whereas they took a leaf out of Marvel's book with this cut and actually gave him some sort of backstory and some reasoning behind what he was doing. So we almost had that sort of weird juxtaposition where in one way it's like you're meant to hate him because he's a murderous bastard, but then on the other hand you're kind of like, well, I can kind of see why he's doing all of this. And so there was a little bit of understanding there, and that also helps with the whole gravitas to this new version of the character. So that was really good.
My understanding, it's kind of like office politics here with Steppenwolf. He's got one like line leader who he speaks to, who's the guy that turns up in that barrel of fluid and talks to him. Is he called Decede? I think he's called. Like, it almost sounds like Darkseid.
Yeah.
Desard, yeah. It's all variations.
And then obviously Desard goes up
Darkseid.
to the boss in the top floor of the office up top and says, look, this guy down here with the funny helmet's looking for a promotion. So it felt like office politics. There's sort of 3 levels of him having to prove himself. Okay, let's go to the flip side of this. Were there any issues with this film that really irked you? Because I had a few. I mean, I'm pretty critical in most cases of films, but were there any points that you thought, hold on, what's going on here? Amy?
Aquaman is a douche. He was just so unlikable. And I think I totally get that films made at different times by different people. There are different kind of storylines and views. With the original Aquaman film, his character in this versus his character in the Snyder cut and in the Whedon cut, really, really different. Really unlikable. Don't know if that's intentional or not, but both Snyder and Whedon both managed to make him come off like a douche. So in some ways, they both got something that they agreed on. Just really didn't warm to him at all in this, unlike the main film. I found him just too different from his standalone film. Completely, he lacked humility. He was just not likeable, I'm afraid, for me.
So this was his first outing, wasn't it? Because Aquaman came after this.
After Game of Thrones?
Yeah, well, that too.
Because he wasn't really much.
No, this was his first outing as Aquaman.
So
Aquaman,
what happened was on his standalone, then they had a rethink and made him more likeable. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But I stand by my point that he's a douche.
I felt like his character was probably the least explored, the most underexplored character of the film, actually. He didn't... I mean, okay, we had that scene in that Icelandic village where he takes his shirt off on the pier and listens to Nick Cave whilst the surf bashes him. And I think that was basically softcore porn for ladies, which is fair enough. Why not? But I think Henry Cavill was more... His topless was much more enticing than Jason Momoa's topless. But that's just me. Yeah, I agree with you.
I need to tell my wife that Jason Momoa's in it. Firstly, and secondly,
there you
he takes
go.
his
There's
top
a
off.
for you.
That's it, Bobby.
Catch the little fishy. Yeah, I think he was. I mean, there was a scene that was cut where he was sitting on Wonder Woman's lasso of truth, and he started saying things he shouldn't do, which I think was a good cut. But yeah, I felt like he was either a bit of a comic relief or a bit underexplored. Alex,
I've got a point on that actually, because I think that's probably a theme that I think is a bit of a downside, which is that humour was sucked out of the film. So yes, the humour that was put into the Whedon cut was, felt false, or it felt forced. Sorry, but the challenge is that the only light humour came from the Flash. There were a couple of quips here and there, but they were so depressed compared to what they were in the Whedon cut. honestly, there were times where it did make you feel like a bit like Endgame in a way, where you felt like, this is not going to end well. This is not, we're not doing well at all. And that level of gravitas was really important, but it didn't have a counterpoint in the Snyder Cut. Whereas in the Whedon Cut, they tried to do it, even if they did it badly. They tried to lighten bits up.
Bobby,
so yeah,
Bobby
I found that a challenge.
I think, Alex.
Well, I think the first point is that, Alex, if you're going to do something, do it properly or don't do it at all. And Joss Whedon just shouldn't have freaking done it at all, right? Secondly, having grown up reading Superman and a lot of Batman, for me, the balance of humour was just right, keeping in tone with DC. And it just meant that when there was a little bit of humour, and this is just me personally, I totally appreciate this doesn't work for everyone, and that's absolutely fine. But when there were moments of humour, they landed. Like, they really landed. Like the bit with the Flash taking the wiener, or whatever what is it, a hot dog? Do you call it a wiener?
No, I prefer the first. Bobby, can you say that again? Can you say that again for me, please? Just say it again.
Sorry, John gets excited.
No, say it again. Say it again.
Say
it, Bobby.
Listen to the previous
say it
in this podcast. Wiener.
Oh, okay.
The Flash takes his wiener.
Oh!
Takes the wiener.
No, stop now. Stop.
There will be a wiener remix coming out next week.
Wiener. A hot dog. There's hot dogs flying around in this crash.
You've already told us that you're impressed by length. Anyway,
well,
so it's
someone's
fine.
hot dog flies through the air, and the Flash grabs his sausage meat. And you're thinking in that moment... Alex asked for humour. That's why.
Bobby's actually just demonstrated that he can inject more humour into his film than Joss Whedon. So I'm impressed.
So, well, who knows what wieners Joss Whedon was grabbing. Ray Parker Jr.,
allegedly,
whatever his name is, for sure. So he grabs the... Where was I? He grabs the hot dog, and in that moment you're thinking, that's a bit random. And my immediate thought was, maybe he's hungry. But then... I'm not going to go into religion. And then later on, sort of a minute later, he's then obviously with the dogs and everything, and the reason why is because he wants to get that job, and he took the hot dog for, feeding them. But that joke really, really landed for me, because I then laughed out loud and spat out whatever it was that I was eating. But anyway, and also when they're talking about the satellite surveillance to find where Darkseid and everyone are, and I think it's the Flash that turns around to Bruce Wayne and says, "Oh, you've got a satellite," and then Ben Affleck just turns around and goes, "6, actually." And you're just like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
I don't think it was overdone.
Batman. No, I don't.
It wasn't overdone in the Snyder
right.
Cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. No, I agree with that. I just feel like, and this is the challenge, is that if Whedon had had more time to think about the things that he's trying to put in, like the humour, they would have landed better. There was a lot of poor humour in the Whedon cut.
Was Whedon
was all stripped out?
Was he under pressure, time wise or budget wise, for this film? Was it get it out quick?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah,
was.
yeah. But I think we should go through that, because I want to go into a bit more detail about that. But yeah, okay. I think he was under a lot of pressure from the studios to deliver a version of like DC's version of Avengers Assemble. That was literally the brief,
right? And
that's why Snyder was like, I'm out. I just want to do my get out away from this, and obviously Whedon was like, well, I can do that again. Obviously, that's not a problem. But obviously the source material doesn't lend to that very well, and that's why we had to have all the reshoots. And as soon as that happened, it just unravelled. So I think that was sort of the downfall of the Whedon cut. But no, honestly, I think some of the humour, like and the fact that the Flash's light humour worked really nicely, and it was just nice to get those little moments from some of the rest of the team, because if so much of the storyline was so dark that it's nice to have a little bits as we go. Otherwise, you end up going, "This is tough work." I thought I was meant to be enjoying this.
There's nothing wrong with a dark film though, with a depressing film. I think this is not going to be the final film from this franchise by any stretch. I understand Snyder's got more plans afoot which was hinted at in the final dream scene with Joker, but which we'll talk about in a second. But Amy, Alex, Bobby, were there any other issues you had with the film?
I think Snyder's a Marmite director, right? People either really love him or they hate him, or they love some of his stuff and they don't like other stuff that he's done. So for me personally, out of all the Snyder films I've seen, it's like 300 I really liked, Sucker Punch, what the
I watched that again.
Man of Steel. Actually. Really?
Yeah.
Sucker Punch?
I did. I watched it again because they released like an extended edition on iTunes.
Right.
And I watched it again. I thought,
was it any better?
Why did I want to rewatch this?
And
it's a teenage boy's
hard work. It's a wet dream. Basically, it's a wet dream.
So it's still crap,
exactly.
And I thought, it does make you think sometimes. And again, we can think about how Whedon maybe was treated other people. How some of these films get made in the first place. Who approves them? Sometimes it's a bit strange.
Yeah, no, it's
Sorry,
crazy.
Bobby,
but I mean, Sucker Punch, Watchmen. I never read the original comic, and I still haven't seen Watchmen in its entirety. I've now bought the director's cut, and that is waiting to go in my iTunes library. And again, it's one of those that I will need to be alone because wife is not interested. But I take everybody's word for it. I've got some friends who are massive Watchmen fans, and they've told me that is, one of the definitive comic to screen adaptations. It just hits the nail on the head for big fanboys of
Bobby.
Of that.
If you once you've watched the film and possibly read the comic as well, it's up to you. It's very good, the comic. You must if you can get a chance to watch the more recent Watchmen TV series, because that is one of the best things I've seen on television for a long time.
Yeah, we started watching that. We've got a couple of episodes in.
I think you without having seen the film, it would have been a bit weird. I think if you watch the film, it makes more sense what's going on. But people listening, I can't recommend it enough. And again, it's up there with the current Falcon Winter Soldier series for how it deals with race issues as well. It's really, really good. It's worth a watch.
Yeah. So Man of Steel. I really liked Man of Steel. Again, I do have problems with the mass death and so on, but I understand the thinking or the approach to it. That this is, someone who's discovering his powers. He's suddenly got to deal with these other like beings from his planet that want to destroy his new home. There's going to be death and destruction when those two go at it. And again, for me, just as a Superman fanboy, we'd just never seen Superman like that on screen, and it was just awesome.
Apparently, Snyder decided to make the final scene, the time loop scene, in that abandoned zone. He actually did that on purpose. He wanted to make sure that there were no issues with viewers about damage to the general populace. So that abandoned nuclear village, they got rid of that family living there from the original cut, and it was designed by purpose to be in an area where there were no other humans, so that Snyder couldn't be accused of cannon fodder people from the first films.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So luckily this film obviously fell on the side of good Snyder film. But there obviously are his little things. I think maybe we could have shaved 10 minutes off the film just by not doing quite as much slow motion stuff. So that was the only little nitpick for me. And also the fact that they put the Martian Manhunter visiting Batman at the very end scene.
I need to ask you about that, because you're the expert here. How is it that Batman lost about 3 stone between the beginning of the film and that final scene? Was it because it was filmed 3 years later, or was it because Batman had done so much jumping around and action during the film that he lost weight up to that point? Because you look at the difference between him, he's all puffy cheeked and look morose at the beginning of the film, and he's all tanned and skinny at the end of the film.
So so when Justice League was originally made, Ben Affleck went into rehab because he had all the alcohol problems.
Okay.
And that was when his marriage with Jennifer Garner was breaking down.
Jennifer Garner?
And he came... Jennifer... God, what's her name?
J-Lo, isn't it? Jennifer Lopez.
No, not J-Lo. J-Lo
Wasn't he
was
married to
ages
J-Lo?
ago. J-Lo was like 12 years ago.
Did he marry another woman called Jennifer?
Right. Who's the one that plays the Alias, J.J. Abrams' first TV show? It's Jennifer Garner, right?
I thought we married J-Lo.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Connolly?
Someone look it up.
What famous
Amy, you're
Jenny?
just
Alex
trolling
is
us
looking it
now,
up.
aren't you?
While
mean,
Alex
I'm
is
on it.
looking it up,
Jenny
Is he
Fallon.
just
and then
marrying?
he tells me I'm right.
Is he just marrying women called Jennifer so that if he forgets her name, he always gets it right?
Yeah, Jennifer Gardner.
I always thought it was
They
J-Lo.
divorced
There
in
you go.
2018.
Yeah.
No. Jennifer Gardner.
he ever go out with J-Lo?
Gardner.
Jennifer Garner.
don't
Yes, he
think
did.
so.
12 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, they made that film Giggly, which is one of the worst films ever made.
I'm so
Oh.
confused. Okay.
I remember that. Oh,
And if you can
Alex
think of
obviously...
any other people, any other famous people whose name is Jenny, please put them in the comments
thought-
below. We'd love to read them.
I thought Jennifer Connelly was
Yes.
married to Paul Bettany anyway.
Yeah, she is.
Connolly, yes.
They're
Okay.
happily married.
Okay, right, okay.
So,
Bobby, back to you.
I'm
draw
trying
you
to
a
answer
picture,
your
Joe.
question now. Okay, so John.
Yeah.
So he was in rehab for alcoholism and stuff like that. He came back for the reshoots for the Snyder Cut.
Ah,
So that's why he's looking leaner and fresher faced and so on.
right. Okay, fair enough.
I think I need rehab.
Yeah, I think
that's-
I think apart from Bobby, I don't think you and I do, Alex.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that sounds like
so
a good idea.
let's talk about these two scenes here. I mean, I had problems with Martian Manhunter, and I only knew what he was by googling him because I've never heard of him before. Why did he disguise himself as Martha? What was the point of that scene? Help me out here.
So the point of that scene is that Superman has just been resurrected.
Yeah.
And he's confused. And when this young Superman is confused, he lashes out. So he was obviously lashing out at the heroes, and basically the only thing that was going to calm him down or bring him back was Lois, because of their love for each other. And so the reason Martian Manhunter visited Lois in the guise of Martha was to bring her back into the game.
Can I ask why he needed to be Martha? Couldn't you have gone in as Martian Manhunter and said, look, I'm a superhero, Superman's a superhero, he needs you, go and sort it out. Why did he have to be Martha? Was it a whole sort of
I'm
sympathy
texting
thing?
Zach right now just to ask that question, and I'll let you know when he replies to me. But because
Okay,
of the
thank
time
you.
difference, it might not be till the next episode.
Because in
Also,
that scene,
did you notice when she turns up to see Superman at the memorial, the policeman that she brings the coffee
Jimmy
for
Olsen.
is the original Jimmy
Yeah.
Olsen?
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I just read that online.
Yeah, we all saw it on IMDb,
did.
I know, but I just thought I'd ask, because I think that's quite cool. They got Jimmy Olsen in there. Okay.
Yeah, but it was to
when
get
they
Lois
get-
back in the game, basically.
Yeah, okay.
When they
I
get-
like Amy Adams, and I wish there was more of her in this film, but obviously she's kind of not the main focus, but I think she's brilliant, by the way. And she's quite... Isn't she a producer and director as well now, Amy Adams? I think she is. I think she's quite...
Yeah.
She's got quite a lot of clout in the industry. Okay. The dream scene with the Joker. Now, I understand that this is major spoilery stuff here, but I understand that Zack Snyder has talked about this scene and talked about future films. And I don't want to talk about that now because that will spoil future films, but it seems to me that this is setting something up, this dream scene. It reminded me a bit of Tony Stark's vision of the future with all the disasters going on when he was in the spaceship running out of food. What's going on here? It looks to me like one of the video cutscene intros to that Injustice game, because I'm pretty sure there's an evil Superman in that. Are we
that's
drawing
right.
from a storyline that's already existed in the comics here?
So basically, the heroes and villains alike have to team up, basically, to sort Superman out when he goes evil. That's the whole Injustice thing.
Right.
You don't really get much of a sense of that in the game because all you end up doing is pairing up with some other hero and then you go and beat two other heroes up, sort of Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 2 style.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. But, I mean, that was the whole Injustice thing. Superman does go rogue. I think in this, the idea is that he's meant to have killed Lois. due to some sort of manipulation by Darkseid.
Who? Superman or Batman?
Superman does.
I thought Batman killed Lois.
And anyway, so basically, Batman has to pull a team together, which consists of obviously other heroes like Green Lantern and the Flash, etc. And then he has to pull from the other side, which is the Joker, and other assorted DC baddies, including that one. What's his name? Deadshot? No, Crossbones.
The guy with the goatee, the guy with the blonde goatee with his.
The guy with the goatee, yeah.
Yeah. Deadshot, isn't that Deadshot?
No, is it? Who's Will Smith's one in the Suicide Squad?
Oh, I don't know.
This is the problem when as a kid you only focus on literally 2 comics and only the ones that don't really involve any sort of overarching stuff beyond Batman and
Amy's
one other person.
Isn't the guy at the very, very end of the film that you're talking about, who I personally refer to as Eye Patch Man, isn't he the guy that talks to Lex Luthor all the way 4 hours earlier at the start of the film?
Oh, I think you're right. I think he is.
Have I actually got something right?
Yes.
Yes!
Maybe. I'm going to need to watch this film again because I've only seen it once.
Yeah, I think I will as well. Okay.
It was meant to queue up. It was meant to queue up a future storyline because I can't remember what it's called, but there's Martian Manhunters in Earth for this reason, and then it queues up that it's another plot device. That
is this to do with the anti-life equation, Alex?
Yeah, that's
right.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, because I got the impression that was
that's what it's meant to be.
The Infinity Gauntlet, where it's like it's the big thing that can kill everyone and control everyone.
Yeah, it's meant to be introduced as, and then you can see it like a precursor to what would happen when Darkseid comes to Earth. So he comes to Earth for the equation,
right?
And then if he gets the equation, then that Joker scene plays out.
I see.
Whereas if he doesn't, then
everything's fine.
Yeah.
So potentially Superman could be evil because he's being controlled by Darkseid using the anti-life equation.
Yeah.
Ah, that will make sense. Yeah. And that the anti-life equation was that
losing
big
Lois,
sort of thumbprint on the ground in that historic battle scene. And then did someone find it later on as well? Was it Steppenwolf that found it?
So does what?
Oh, I'm very confused. So has Steppenwolf found that anti-life equation yet? Was he's dead now? Isn't he?
No, not yet. Right. No, this is the thing. It's kind of, and this is my main, the main real frustration about this scene is that it's not just a short scene. There's a lot of, they try and put a lot of depth into it, whereas actually we don't have time for all that depth, and it's also just adds more confusion. So like when you have Marvel films, for example, they always queue up what the next film is at the end. So I've got no problem with them doing that in DC, but the challenge they have is that they put in a lot more, so it ended up just questioning what the value was in the whole film. And then the Martian Manhunter bit came in as well, and you were thinking, well, hang on just a minute, we've just finished this film and now I've got I didn't like how it played, that part of it played, and we should probably have, when you talk to Snyder and he talks about future films, he says that there's a good chance that there won't be any more from him for DC.
Really?
And that's what, so like, yes, this is what he envisaged the Justice League cut to be. So yes, we are seeing what his vision was, but what frustrates me is that we won't see this vision play out. And if we're not going to see it play out, do we need it? Like, did we need the Martian Manhunter storyline, and did we need the Nightmare vision? It didn't. You could have easily cut those.
Or they could have been in the intros to the next film. Almost, couldn't they?
Yes, totally. Yeah, if that ever existed. But it's so I feel like it's that's the bit that frustrates me about it, is that there's bits that he puts in to the to this film that aren't necessary, and yes, they might have been for his true vision, but it's not. It's like the Nolan trilogy doesn't have any excess bits. It stands on its own, and it runs, but it stands on its own, and it feels like this has been. He was trying to cue in this, and he was trying to cue in this, and that's a bit that I found a bit challenging, because I was just like, why am I watching this bit? Yes, this is lovely. This is all DC, but it's when there ever becomes that part of the storyline comes up, it's not going to look like this, and it's not going to play like this, and they're going to have to reintroduce it again. So why do I have to watch through it? Maybe I was just a bit tired after the 4 hours mark. I think maybe that was it.
That was the point of disappointment for me, because I was like, what? Now I want to see what he was going to do next. And correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but I think part of what you're trying to say there is that why bother putting it in if you're not going to make any more movies, or you're not going to continue this storyline? There was absolutely no point. It's like the Christopher Nolan trilogy for me is my favourite superhero trilogy or set of films, because it has a beginning and it has an end. It's left to your thoughts, and maybe if you really wanted to, you could go and write some fan fiction or something to talk about what Catwoman or Selena and Bruce did next. But it's just a perfect trilogy. It's bookended. This, it was like that was again. It was like, oh wow, he's visiting Bruce. Oh shit! Now I want to see. Oh, but they're not going to make any more. And now also we don't really know what has gone on behind the scenes at Warner's. Because one thing we do know is that they want to make money, and they want to make money out of this thing that they've just not been able to get. They've not been able to get the padlock combination to the DCEU right, like Marvel has, and they keep looking across the way at what Kevin Feige and team are doing, and they're so desperate to get this sorted out. You don't know if they turn around to Snyder and said, "Listen, we're going to give you $70 million to do this thing, right, and to shut these bloody fanboys up. But if it does well, we might be talking to you about coming back to do some more." Because if they suddenly sniff that, holy based on the numbers that Justice League Zack Snyder cut has done, we could have a $1 billion plus grossing film on our hands finally, because they've not been able to hit that magic number. All of these threads, because now the new thing that's come out in the press the other day is that Matt Reeves' standalone Batman film with Robert Pattinson, which, by the way, I can't wait for. I saw some of that filming before COVID in just off the Embankment. It's one of the scenes that's in the actual trailer for it. I cannot wait for that film. But now they're saying that film is set on Earth 2. So they're sort of just kind of leaving these little strands out there to keep the options open, because obviously we've got a Flash movie coming, and we know that the Flash movie is going to take place he's going to end up in different dimensions and different versions of Earth, because there's also a deleted scene from somewhere or other where he meets Barry Allen's Flash from the TV series, Grant Gustin's version of the Flash. They actually have a scene together. So I just think maybe this is me being cynical, and also it's to do with the whole European Super League going on as well, where they're trying to go and do a big cash grab there, but this is not a sports podcast. Come back to that another time. Maybe when Mark's here. But maybe I'm being cynical, but I just think the money men at Warner's, they're not going to just throw $70 million at this for just a one-shot deal. They will want to... Surely they will want to just keep their options open to option future films or TV shows out of this Zack Snyderverse.
Bobby, I'm pretty sure that they have 2 more films optioned for Snyder to do in this universe and continue the storyline.
Wow, okay, well that's news to me, because the last I read when I looked it up was Snyder saying, listen, I always would want to make the fans happy, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm done with it now.
Well, I read an interview, again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but he's pretty much outlined what's going to happen in the next 2 films. He's actually spoilt them, but getting the fans infused. let's watch this space on that one, because obviously if they do come out, they're more than likely by the time they come out to be back on in the cinemas. And that's the first thing I thought of when I sat down to watch this is, again, one of my main concerns I really struggled with was the film format, the 4:3 ratio, screen ratio. Now, I understand this was done, Snyder made this decision to be able to show the height of his heroes. And so they stood taller like gods, which you kind of lose when you've really got the top half of these bodies in a landscape view. I really, really, really disliked that view. Now, I understand completely why I did it, but I struggled with it not being a landscape view. I sat and watched Chaos Walking today, thank you, Alex. I quite enjoyed that, but I really, going back to the next film with Letterbox and the lovely landscapes, and I think something missed from this film was he had some really good scenes. The historic battle, the Themyscira chase scene, or the dome that Steppenwolf created. I think they would have been really amazing in landscape. However, I would love to have gone to see, and I'm sure you'll agree, I would love to have gone to see this at an IMAX cinema, because it would be perfect. This is obviously it's an IMAX format, but I don't understand why there's not going to be a general release of IMAX of this film. I understand that Snyder has planned to show it like a limited charity viewing at SnyderCon, but that's over in the States, so we won't get that. What do you think is the future of this film in the cinema, or following films in the cinema, or cinema itself after the pandemic? It's a bit of a bigger question. Alex?
Yeah, so there is a reason why they can't show it in cinema, is because of the HBO Max streaming deal. So that's why they can't show it in cinema. It
has come out. The film has come out to purchase now, today, on iTunes.
No, it can be purchased, but the deal with HBO Max was just it was because of that deal.
It's exclusivity deal, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the reason why it won't come out. I mean, yeah, for charity, it's fine.
Do you think it will though later on? Do you think IMAX will show it later on?
In time, yeah. I think I think that deal probably has a 12 month sort of schedule, because that was what HBO Max's deal was. Is that they're basically putting that marketing money that they would have got in the film, and they're putting it behind HBO Max to try and get subscribers.
Amy, so if Alex said to you, "Come on, dear, let's get our running shoes on and go down and watch the Justice League again at the IMAX, I'm paying," would you go?
No, because firstly, it's going to cost at least 3 times as much as normal, because they could squeeze 3 more films out of people in that time. Yeah. But I've got one of these stupid, idiotic brains that if I can't sit at the front of the cinema, because if I can't see the edges of the screen and there's any movement at all, I want to throw up. So I have to sit right at the very back. And IMAX, I would basically spend 4 hours with my eyes closed trying not to vomit. You can imagine my joy when my husband bought the biggest TV I've ever seen. He nearly ruined watching films at home for me too.
You just sit in the middle of the living room, don't you, surely?
Yeah, but I'll just sit right in front of it. So yeah, for me personally, because it was IMAX, no. Would I go and see it in a normal cinema if I was sitting right at the back where I could see the edges of the screen? Maybe. Yeah, because I think it looked fantastic, but obviously the ratio would put pay to that.
Now I understand why Amy watches everything on her phone. What I don't understand is why you watch everything on your phone in portrait. You hold the phone in normal portrait. You don't even tilt it.
Because when you tilt it, quite often it removes the frames. Or rather, there are bits and you can't see the tops and the bottoms.
Okay. They say there's someone for everyone out there. Yeah. I would. Thanks for letting me know that it's available on iTunes today, John. I will straight after this be buying it and watching it on the Apple TV in glorious 4K. The letterbox, the 4:3 format didn't actually bother me. I didn't really notice it. It was fine. And I would totally see it in IMAX if they ever did a run, and I'm sure they will at some point in the future. If by the way, actually, having said that to Amy, I will say I did watch this film on the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. That's the biggest screen I've been able to watch it on so far, because I've not been able to hog my home television for 4 hours to watch it.
I mean,
so anyway.
Bobby, it's perfect to watch on an iPad, because the iPad's ratio is nearer to 4:3, isn't it? Which I find really interesting.
And that is why I'm going to. That's why I'm going to buy it on iTunes, and I'll watch it on the iPad with my AirPods
Spatial
Max
thingy. Yeah.
the spatial audio, the Dolby Atmos, all that stuff. But yeah, if ever in the future, if they did release that film for a limited kind of special IMAX run, I would totally pay to go and see it in an IMAX cinema.
Yeah. I would as well.
Without question.
Final question.
On the plus side, I was going to say on the plus side, you're going to get an intermission. Because at least with those parts, like the cinema can plop an intermission in after that kind of
I went and saw a remastered, like a reissued Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey at Cinema in Mayfair in London. And they had an interval, because it's quite a long film, but it was in the original 35mm. So it was super wide, completely against Snyder's vision. And the interval was lovely. I mean, I went on my own, and we all stood around, had a beer at the interval, and chatted about the film and what we thought of it. And it was really nice, because it's a film we'd all seen already, even though it was halfway through. It was really nice actually having a chat and talking and mingling halfway through. So that would be awesome if we could do that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, one last question, and I think we need to round this off. There's a black and white version. What are your thoughts? I really, really loved. I absolutely adored the black and what's called the black and chrome version of Mad Max Fury Road. The desert scenes looked amazing in that film in black and white. What are your thoughts on watching this in black and white? If you could watch it in black and white, would you want it to be a super edit where they removed all humour completely, and so it was black and white and dark and really depressing? What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm good, but thanks.
Bobby.
I was when Logan came out, the Wolverine film.
Yeah, I love that film.
I was dead. Even during watching that, I don't think they talked about a black and white version when it actually came out. But halfway through in the cinema, I was thinking, do you know what? This would rock in black and white, especially that opening scene where he has that fight with his limo, and the guys damage it. But for this one, I did love the film, but if it comes out in black and white, so what, really? I mean,
So
I'm not too worried about it.
The iTunes version of Fury Road and Logan, which I own both of those. What was nice about, and this is one of the benefits of buying on a streaming service rather than buying physical, was the black and white versions were an update that came out for free later on. So probably if you buy the version.
So for Mad Max Fury Road, because I do actually own that film
on iTunes.
It's in my iTunes library. They got the black and white version as well.
It's called the black and chrome version.
Black and chrome. I'm sorry.
It was actually.
I'll go and check that out.
It was actually, now I've forgotten his name now, a very famous director of Mad Max. Oh, God.
George someone.
Jenny.
No, it's not Jenny. Alex, Google it whilst I talk. Terrible. I'm disgusted I've forgotten. But
Mad Max. It's
George, not George Romero. That's not George. Not
George Romero.
No, but he decided. Well, his initial vision for that film, Mad Max, was to be filmed in black and white, not colour. So for him, when he saw it in black and white, that was his original conception of the Mad Max Fury Road film. And I think it's one of the best conversions. I did like it. I watched Logan in black and white as well. It was amazing. It's a proper Western. Actually,
Alex, what's the director's name?
George Miller.
George Miller, that's
George
it.
Miller. See?
Halfway level.
George someone. Jennifer Lopez.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be a nice little sort of icing on the cake, but I don't think it's something. I don't think it's something that the fans will go and watch again in the cinema by choice, will it? Is it really?
No, I wouldn't. I think I've got no problem with people desaturating colour out of a scene.
Yeah.
No problem with that whatsoever, because it has a real impact. I just don't like it throughout the entire thing, because otherwise yes, it's got a feel, but then I just feel like it will get distracting.
What about Sin City though?
I loved Sin City, but the thing is that's
Starlight.
Because when they used colour, it really popped and it had a real feeling to that. If you just stripped all colour out and you just watched it in black and white, yes, it would have a feel. So like Sin City would work in black and white, but it's that different. It's like the red lips that are really bright against a dark, monochrome background.
It was high contrast as well, wasn't it?
It would. I mean, that was obviously from the graphic novels, but it was so good. That was so good. So I wouldn't have stripped it all out, because then there's things like you'd lose the power of like I'm going for the black and white Superman suit rather than going for the colour one. So it's things like that you'd lose. It would be diminished a bit.
If you are interested in seeing an equivalent to Sin City as a film, there's a really good animated film called Renaissance, which is a film noir. It's a detective film, but a futuristic one, with Daniel Craig as the voice of the main character. It's set in Paris. It's called Renaissance, and it is amazing. If you get, and that's all black and white, but it's a combination of animation, CGI, but all black and white, and it's film noir, and it's kind of future film noir. It's really good. Renaissance. It's really worth a watch. Okay, boys and girls, we've chatted at length. I think it's been a really great discussion. Really insightful. Well done. We are just going to let you know how you can get in contact with us if you want to discuss more about Alex's running shoes, or if you want to find a natty
his brother.
or just dig deeper about the damaged siblings. So you can find me on Twitter as at John PR Evans. You can find Amy at Awakey. Amy, what is the basis of Awakey? What's that all about?
So I was one of the first children at my secondary school to go on the internet, which I was very proud of. And so I've managed to hold the handle of, because we used to hold them handles back then, kids. I've managed to hold the handle of Awakey for goodness knows how many years now. My first name is Amy, which is A, and my maiden name was Wake. And everyone used to call my brother Wakey. So I became Awakey.
And your date of birth and your passport number as well. What's that?
Got those as well, and mother's maiden name too.
And I'm just guessing, is this correct, Bobby? Are you Roberto Revilla, at Roberto Revilla on Twitter?
No, on Twitter I am at It's Bobby Revilla. Because
I should know this after listening to your podcast.
A famous Latin mathematician called Roberto Revilla has got my Twitter handle.
Oh, you've got
Amy, do you remember this one?
Posh.
How many candles you burning?
No, I don't
CB
know
radio? Do you never get in CB radio?
Oh yeah,
kids,
CB
I had a friend
radio.
who, I had a friend who had a CB radio, and then he'd go on and you'd be like, I can't remember the beginning bit, but the next question inevitably was, how many candles you burning? Which apparently was like, how old are you? Don't know why they can't just ask that. But
No, I just remember playing on my friend's CB radio, and she decided that her handle was then Goldilocks. And we got through to him, and he said, Goldilocks, I've heard about you. I've heard you're naughty. And at the age of 11, we both looked at each other and went, ah! And quickly turned everything off.
Creepy. And whilst they're falling on the floor there, Alex, you're known as at Alex Hansford on Twitter, aren't you?
Yeah, it's really unoriginal. It's just my name.
Yeah. The only handle I've held onto for a very long time is my gaming tag, which is Darth Nutclench. I've had that for about 15 years now. That's not how you can get hold of me online anymore, though. You can also get to our website, where you can listen to the show again if you don't have a podcast feeder of your choice. It's now, Alex, help me out here. Is it www here as well?
No, it's just playpauseturn.show.
Playpauseturn.show.
You don't need to put the W's in.
No, okay. Well, again, showing my age there. But play, pause, turn is spelt as in pausing a video, not as in cat's paws.
This isn't an animal podcast.
No, it's not. Not well. I don't know. Maybe it is. Thank you for listening. This has been Play, Pause, Turn. And we'll hope to be back with you in a couple of weeks with a new topic. Farewell.
Bye.
Bye, guys.